Broderick Jones, the enemy of my enemy is a friend, in trading up to number 14 to get him from the Patriots. It prevents the Jets from drafting Broderick Jones at 15. Very savvy move by Omar Khan. But what I want to ask you, Chris, is when does Broderick Jones start? Because I'm just looking at the schedule, right? 49ers, week 1, Nick Bosa. They move him around, but Nick Bosa against a rookie, that's going to be tough for any opposing tackle, let alone a rookie. Then week 2, Myles Garrett, we know what he could do. Week 3, you've got Max Crosby. So when do you see Broderick Jones start? Do you want to see how the competition plays out with Dan Moore in training camp? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but how do you see this shaking out at the left tackle position for the Steelers, at least early on this season?
Well, Dan Moore Jr. will come in as the first offensive tackle on the left side to start training camp. There's no doubt about that. Isaac Seumalo has taken the left guard position, but Moore's going to get the chance to defend his spot. I think what's going to tell for Broderick Jones is when they start putting him in the one-on-one situations with Watt, Highsmith, Golden, and Herbig. How does he bounce back from his losses? Because like Dan Moore Jr., if anyone remembers Steelers training camp when Dan Moore Jr. was a rookie, it was rough. He was getting ragdolled. It was just, Alex Highsmith was beating him up and down the field, but he hung in there, and they kind of had no other option at left tackle. So he went out there and improved as a rookie. His second year, he started to step up a little bit. Wasn't dominating, wasn't winning all the time, or even saying most of the time, but you saw him be better against Alex Highsmith on that side of the ball. What has to happen with Broderick Jones is we need to see that kind of progress in this training camp. If you see that kind of progress in this training camp, doesn't necessarily have to happen for him to have a great career with the Steelers. But if you want to see him start week 1, he needs to kind of have that rough day or two where he gets beat up a bit, and then all of a sudden you start seeing him fight back a little bit, winning more competitions when they're doing their one-on-one drills with some of those edge rushers. And if he can win some with Alex Highsmith, maybe not TJ Watt, but if he can win some with Highsmith and Golden, I think the Steelers will be like, all right, we're going to give you some shots out here. I truly believe that the difference will be, as long as Broderick Jones can make the margin between him and Dan Moore Jr. very minuscule, I think the Steelers was like, all right, Broderick, you get out there. I truly think the long-term play here for the Steelers is they want Dan Moore Jr. to be a swing tackle. He worked at both positions in OTAs and minicamp. He even confirmed that to us in the locker room. I think the long-term play is Broderick Jones takes over left tackle, and then after this year, if Chuks Okorafor hasn't become a dominant right tackle, with his $13 million cap hit and almost $9 million you can save from letting him go or trading him somewhere else, they might be like, hey, Dan, you're our new right tackle, and move him over there, which I thought all along, Dan Moore is much more of a right tackle. He's more physical. He's more aggressive in going after and getting guys. He's less of a passive pass protector the way that they're hoping Broderick Jones can be. And that's where I think the long-term play is here. So I don't know if Broderick Jones starts week 1. He needs to be able to, again, kind of lose some of those battles and then bounce back against the Steelers' top edge rushers in camp. And if he does that, I think he puts himself on that path to start week 1. But if he doesn't, you'll see Dan Moore, I'd say, for the first month or so. And then similarly to Kenny Pickett, eventually they'll work Broderick Jones in there. They didn't draft him to sit on the bench for a year. They drafted him to see him work. Just depends on how he shows up this year in training camp.
You answered the question I was going to ask, is what happens to Dan Moore Jr. when Broderick Jones eventually takes over that position. So well done there, Chris.
Thank you.
And yeah, the one concern I have with this rookie class is we're so excited about it because I've said this too, is like, we would have been cool had the Steelers drafted Joey Porter Jr. at 17, right? Like just given the ties with his dad and what we expect from him. And they end up getting him at 32, a much better value. But my concern is I thought last year's rookie class played pretty well. I'm hoping that we don't put too high of expectations early on for this rookie class specifically, because they are still rookie players. But look, it's almost like you get 2 first-round picks in one, because I know it's the 32nd pick, which was technically a second-round pick. Normally, that's a first-round pick. And again, you get a player who all Steelers fans would have been fine if they would have not made a trade and said, hey, we're going to take Joey Porter Jr. at 17. That goes back to getting great value if you're Omar Khan, because you get the same player you would have otherwise gotten almost a half round later. And so, again, I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of, like, I don't want to have too high of expectations for this rookie class.